Welcome to your online source for calculator tutorials. In this tutorial, we will learn how to store variables and use them to make calculations more efficient. Begin a new space-time document so your screen looks like mine. Let's begin by entering a linear equation and storing it with the name cost as if it were a cost function. We want to begin by going into the ABC tab and entering our variable name of cost. This will be representing the cost function. And then we want to go ahead and set it equal to whatever the equation is. In this case, let's use 3x plus 50. So here's our cost function. Go ahead and hit solve and that'll enter it. All right, we want to do the same thing now for the revenue equation, except this time let's make the revenue equation quadratic. So we're going to label our revenue equation REV for revenue, and then go back in and set it equal to the following quadratic function. Alright, now that that's done, we can go ahead and hit solve again, and that enters both the cost and revenue variables. The profit function is found by taking the revenue function and subtracting the cost function from it. So what we'd like to do now is create a third variable called profit, and the profit variable is formed by setting it equal to revenue minus cost. So notice that rather than re-entering each of the two separate equations above, I can just enter them as their stored variable names, revenue and cost. So once you're done with that, go ahead and hit solve, and you'll notice the new equation that we have, that's the profit equation. At this point, I could simply enter the command profit and it would show me that equation each time. Now, while this is nice, there's something really valuable to learn here, and that's how to convert these into functions. If you go back up to the very first entry where we entered the cost command, I can make a simple change that's actually very powerful. Go into cost, and at the end of the cost variable, you want to make sure that your cursor is in between the T and the equal sign here. I want you to enter a parentheses, and in that parentheses put X, because X is the variable that's used in the equation. What you've now done, after you hit solve, is you've transformed that cost variable now into a cost function where you can actually associate values of X with the equation to come up with outputs. Let's do the same thing for the revenue variable. We'll turn the revenue variable into a function by adding parentheses X after the variable name. And once again, the same thing for profit. Alright, notice that in each case, after we've done this, nothing's really changed in terms of our output, but here's how we can use this. If you go down to the fourth entry now, we want to recall the profit function, and you want to use variables again, but rather than evaluating it at just X, what we'd like to know is the value for any given quantity. In other words, how about if X was 100? So we just want to enter profit 100, and at that point we want to hit solve. Once we hit solve, that gives us the value negative 10,250. So we know that at a quantity produced of 10,250 items, we're not going to have a profit. It's a negative value. This concludes the storing variables tutorial. Feel free to replay this tutorial or browse any of the other available topics on the course webpage.